When you came home from school at 3 o'clock, the house was empty, the garage was empty too. The answering machine blinked red on the kitchen counter, but the calls were never for you. Your parents wouldn't be home until 6, sometimes 7, and no one thought this was strange anymore. There was a key under the mat. There were popsicles in the freezer. There was the understanding, unspoken, and absolute that you would figure it out. And you did. This is not a story about abandonment. This is not a story about parents who didn't love their children. This is the story of how an entire generation learned to survive by not needing to be saved, and how that shaped every relationship, every career move, every moment of vulnerability they would or wouldn't allow themselves afterward. Gen X came of age in a moment of perfect psychological collision. The divorce rate hit its peak when they were becoming teenagers. Their parents subscribed to a new philosophy that independence was a moral good, something to be taught early and celebrated often. The economy was shifting, both parents needed to work. Daycare was expensive, supervision felt optional, and so millions of kids let themselves into houses, made their own snacks, did their own homework, and learned something critical. The world would not stop for their struggles. The world, in fact, would barely notice them at all. What happened in that empty space between 3 and 6 o'clock was not just about supervision, it was about the formation of a psychological blueprint. A child alone learns something specific, that asking for help signals weakness, that managing alone is the only proof of worth, that the people who love you can leave and it will be fine because you will have to be fine. This wasn't trauma in the clinical sense. It was adaptations, but adaptation, when it becomes the foundation of how you relate to the world, is a different kind of inheritance. The boomer generation had been raised in post-war abundance with present parents and clear institutional trust. Gen X watched their parents treat emotional expression like a luxury item they couldn't afford. They came of age watching those same institutions crumble. The Challenger space shuttle exploded on live television in 1986. The savings and loan crisis bankrupted families. Their parents' marriages ended at the rate of 1 in 2. By adolescence, they had learned that nothing was guaranteed and no one was coming to fix it. Cynicism wasn't pessimism, it was realism. To be Gen X was to be culturally invisible. Marketing departments skipped over them entirely, focusing on the boomer wave that came before and the millennial wave that came after. In television and advertising in the national imagination, Gen X barely registered. MTV taught them to be skeptical of everything, including the television teaching them skepticism. They became fluent in irony before they could articulate sincerity. They learned to spot inauthenticity the way other generations learned to spot dangers. Because for Gen X, corporate manipulation and genuine danger sometimes look the same. What grows in that kind of environment is a particular kind of strength. Gen X learned to adapt to chaos. They became problem solvers without needing external validation. They built quiet stability in their adult lives, houses, careers, families without drawing attention to themselves. They work harder than any generation before them and complain about it less. According to wage data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they are also the first generation to earn less than their parents. At equivalent career stages, a fact that barely registers in cultural conversation because Gen X never expected to get ahead anyway. But here's what no one talks about. That empty house taught them something else too. It taught them that vulnerability equals risk. It taught them that depending on someone is dangerous. It taught them that the safest position is the one where you need nothing from anyone. And so Gen X became adults who are extraordinarily capable but profoundly guarded. They can handle crisis, they cannot easily handle intimacy. They can solve problems that would paralyze other people, but they struggle to ask for help even when they are drowning. They have built beautiful lives in complete silence, expecting that if they just keep working, keep adapting, keep managing something, will finally feel like it was enough. In romantic relationships, this shows up as a particular kind of distance. Gen X partners often feel emotionally inaccessible to people who need more expression, more reassurance, more proof of being loved. They were never given those things as children, so they don't instinctively offer them as adults. They can commit, they can stay, but they struggle with the vulnerability that comes with true emotional presence. They have learned to survive abandonment by never fully letting anyone close enough to leave them. In careers, they work with a kind of grimness that younger generations find exhausting. They do the job, they do it well. They ask for less, they expect nothing. This makes them incredibly reliable, but it also makes them invisible within their own workplaces. They get passed over for promotions because they don't self-promote. They don't ask for raises because they were taught that gratitude for employment is enough. Meanwhile, younger generations who were raised with more parental investment and institutional encouragement simply ask for what they want and often receive it. The core paradox of Gen X is this: they are the most independent generation America has produced and also the most emotionally defended. They crave connection, but are terrified of the vulnerability it requires. They are harder workers who expect less reward. They are more adaptable to chaos, but that comes from never believing that stability would hold anyway. They can see through manipulation faster than anyone else, which also means they struggle to trust sincerity when it's offered to them. Every person who wasn't watching became proof that their own needs didn't matter. What this creates over decades is a specific kind of invisible cost. It's not the dramatic kind of trauma that gets named in therapy offices. It's quieter. It's the emotional numbness that comes from 50 years of managing alone. It's the anxiety that replaces grief because feeling deep pain was a luxury no one could afford. It's the tendency to intellectualize everything, to turn pain into analysis, to keep the world at a distance through irony and cleverness. It's the achievement addiction that comes from believing your worth is tied entirely to your productivity. It's the way Gen X can be in a room full of people they love and still feel like they're watching from outside. And here's the part no one tells them. They've been told their whole lives that this is strength, that independence is admirable, that needing help is failure, that their parents were wise to let them figure it out. But there's a difference between the strength that comes from being chosen and supported and the strength that comes from having no other choice. One builds resilience, the other builds armor. Gen X has spent 50 years perfecting the armor while wondering why it feels like they're suffocating inside it. The reframe, though, matters. What happened to Gen X was not a personal failing. It was a historical moment colliding with parental philosophy, colliding with economic necessity. Their parents didn't negligently leave them. They consciously believed that early independence built character. And actually, it did build something. It built a generation of problem solvers, of people who can function in chaos, of individuals who learn to trust their own judgment. Because no one else was there to guide them. The adaptability is real, the resilience is real, the work ethic is real. But it was bought at a specific price. And the price was paid in emotional currency that Gen X has spent their entire adult life trying not to think about. They rationalize it, they minimize it. They tell themselves that their childhood was fine, actually better than other kids, because at least they had freedom, and in a way they did. But freedom at 9 years old, when you didn't choose it, is just another word for loneliness. What Gen X did with that loneliness, though, is remarkable. They became the generation that built the bridge between the analog and digital world. They are the only generation fluent in both. They remember life before the internet, and they adapted to the internet without losing themselves to it. The way younger generations sometimes do. They raised children differently than they were raised, more present, more attentive, which is its own kind of inheritance. They built careers and businesses and communities, often quietly without needing external validation or constant public acknowledgement. They became the generation you can trust because they expect nothing and deliver everything. They are the ones who will show up when the crisis happens. They are the ones who won't panic. They are the ones who will figure it out because they have always figured it out. But they are also the ones who might never fully believe that they are allowed to rest, that they are allowed to need things, that their pain matters, that they matter even when no one is watching. The real gift of Gen X, the thing that might finally matter, is this: they survived their own independence, and in surviving it, they became people who can survive almost anything. Not because they were born stronger, but because they were left alone early enough to learn that they could survive being alone. The question now, the one they are beginning to ask in their 50s and 60s, is whether survival is actually the same thing as living, whether all that adaptation was worth the emotional distance, whether the armor they perfected still serves them, or whether it's time to take it off. That's the conversation Gen X hasn't fully let themselves have yet, but it's coming, and when it does, it will be quiet, private, probably without anyone watching. Just like everything else they've ever done. If this resonates, subscribe, there's more like this coming.